Hey guys, Tech Timmy here. So Garvee sent me out their 14,000 BTU portable air conditioner to test, and weather is starting to heat up here in Massachusetts, so I figure what better time than actually get this out of the box, get it set up, and take a first look. So that's exactly what we're going to do in this video. This is their CF14T model. I took a few notes for you guys, but today we're doing an unboxing. I will run through the full setup, and we'll also give you my initial impressions in terms of how chill this thing actually is. Let's go. Alright, so first things first, let's get this puppy out of the box here. I have my unboxing knife as well as my favorite kitchen scissors on standby here. So let's take it out of the box and see what we have inside. Also, I will say I'm not going to do a heavy edit of this video. Basically going to just run through the whole entire unboxing setup, and we'll also give it a test run, see if I can get this installed in my either my bedroom window or off my slider over here, and we'll see how well it cools. So that's the goal for today, and let's take a look at all the pieces that we have inside first. All right, cool. All right, so here is our remote and our documentation. As I said, it looks like it comes with batteries too, which is nice. I love it when brands do that. So here are our documents. Yeah, this seems to look well done and in color and whatnot, so that's cool. So it looks like we have a scan code. Scan this for support, so that probably goes to an email address, which is also nice. Documentation seems good and thorough, and this does seem like it's going to be a standard portable AC unit involved. So I've owned two other portable AC units, one by a company called Yukoki, and that one died after about 2 years, sadly, although I did run it quite a bit, and it gets pretty hot here in the summer, so there is that. And then the other one is by a company called Rollycool, which was a smart air conditioner. At least it was smart for the first year, and then it fell off Wi-Fi, and it seems to keep falling off Wi-Fi. So I thought, you know what? Do I really even need a smart air conditioner? What I need is a beast of an air conditioner, which this one hopefully is, a 14,000 BTU. So inside here, I'm just gonna walk over. So here's our remote. And it looks like it has a nice digital display, so that's cool. There's also screws in the top of the box. You could potentially lose those if you're not careful. And then there's our free batteries, which I don't know about you, but I love me some free batteries. All right, so I'm going to put all this stuff, I'll set all this stuff off to the side until we get the main event done here. But documentation looks really good, looks easy to follow. My understanding is that this air conditioner is actually fairly easy to put together, so we're going to get it done. And I do like the look of that remote. I like the fact that it's got a digital readout. And this one also has a digital readout on the front of it, is my understanding. So we'll take a look at that as well. I'm just going to throw all this packaging stuff out of the way here. And this is really well packaged. There's a styrofoam bit in here. So piece of foam, that's probably for insulation. Take a look at that. I don't have that on my current one, but that's all right. And I do have one of these. So all portable air conditioners, you're going to need to exhaust them outside. At least all the ones that I've ever had, which is kind of a bummer, but par for the course, right? And then here is more insulation. So that's nice that they include all of the additional supplies that you could possibly need. So potentially if you have cracks in the window, whatever, around where you're going to mount the AC, this will actually help to keep the cool indoors. So I love that. And this looks to be like a really solid and well-made vent. Some of these can be super flimsy. Here, I'll walk this over too. Some of these can be super flimsy, but this one has got a nice strong accordion, nice pull to it. And a lot of times what will happen is this part inside can come loose, and it's a little painful to get that back on. So, but this looks like they already shipped it, so you don't have to install it. I love that, actually. The Rollycool one falls off quite a bit, so already this is winning from that perspective. And I'll put this to the side. And yeah, all right, so here's what the magic happens in here. And I'm gonna put this over here as well. And all right, so as I said, I think what I'll do is I'm going to tip the box over, take this out of the box, get the packaging off, take whatever other accessories are in here out, organize everything nicely, but I'll fast forward the video so you guys don't have to deal with the pain of watching me struggle doing all that. All right, here goes nothing. Alright guys, so here we are over in the bedroom, and the first thing I want to point out is that the Garvee air conditioner, 14,000 BTUs, is markedly smaller from an overall footprint perspective than my old Rollycool Rolly bot, one. And I like that because I think it's actually going to fit in the space here that my other one couldn't fit in. It was actually blocking my dresser there. And the other thing that I'll point out size-wise is that, so if you look at so that's the vent for the really cool one. And the one for the Garvee is slightly smaller. And if you see my view, so that's the ocean out there. So my whole thing was I did not want to block the ocean. Obviously, if you have what they call double hung window, it's going to go that way. And even if you just use one panel, they say you might need to cut it. Just if you do cut it, just be careful that you don't cut off the part that you need to make the adjustment. All right, and looking at the Garvee window mount here, you basically see that little plastic thing there. You use that to do the adjustment. You want to be careful too that you don't lose that because that would be a bummer. It doesn't look like there's any extras in the box there, so you're going to want to have one of these to make sure that you set it right. You could potentially also use a screw maybe or something, but you just want to make sure that you get it sized right for your exact window. All right, and that just goes in there like that. And now I have the long boy. That looks to be about the size of my other one. So I'm actually going to go ahead and install this in the window. If you get stuck on the window installation part, I have another full video on my channel where I actually walk you through step by step how to install the vent hose and the window attachment as well. I'll leave a link to that video down below. It goes into more detail step by step, but I think we have this either way. Again, double hung window, it's going to go this way. Vertical window is going to go that way. Vertical window, you're probably almost always going to want that to go on the bottom. All right, next I'm going to remove the rolly cooler out of the way. We'll get the Garvee portable AC in place, and then we will actually get this attached to the back, and I will also install the window attachment. So we're going to do all those things. I'll probably put that on fast forward as well. Should be super straightforward, guys. And I'll go slow if there's any part that I think is going to be confusing for you. If you get stuck at any step, drop a comment down below. And like I said, in terms of the window attachment, I have a full video on my channel. I'll leave a link to that as well. As soon as we're done getting it installed, I will go through all of the controls on the top of the unit, and we'll also take a look at the remote. All right, guys, and as I said, so the next step in the operation here is to attach the vent hose to the AC itself. And it looks like Garvee made this pretty easy as well. It seems that this is actually square. So pretty much any way you install it, it should go on nicely just like that. And then it just clicks right in place. Super easy. And while I'm down here on the floor, I guess now's probably a good time to also talk about the drain hose here. On both of my past units, I did not use one of these. I basically just drained it manually. So this, my understanding is, comes in handy if you have continuous operation, say you have dehumidification mode in a basement or whatever, and or you live in a high moisture area. So as you saw, I actually live on the ocean here, and there gets to be a lot of humidity in the apartment. And maybe once a week, I basically just empty this thing manually. All I do is I insert a pan under the bottom of it and then tilt it forward to get the excess water out. On my other unit, I've never had to drain this one up here. I suspect that's because it's probably for dehumidification, which I don't use. The one down the bottom seems to be the problem area. Remains to be seen this one, what's going to happen here. But I would say that, oh, I also have another video on my channel where I show you how to do the manual method that I use, just using a simple drain pan. That way you don't have to deal with the hose or worrying about filling up a bucket or a washing sink, or just having running this outside as well. Don't have to worry about any of that if you use that method. All right, next we're going to get installed. I'm going to install the window attachment in the window, and then we'll hook this up to the window, and then we will take a look at the panel in the front and we'll give it a test run. All right, so I've had my first learning moment here in terms of the way this window attachment goes. So the screws that come with it are actually used for something, and it's this. That little plastic pin is not it. That's only temporary. And this is nice because it should stay fixed once you have it in place. So I'm going to install a screw in both sides. You can see I'm going long here. It's still not going to reach to the top, but I think I have a solution for that as well. But so here, I'm just going to insert the screw, one in each side, and then it should actually stay on there nice and firm. I'm not going to have to worry about it falling or tweaking it or anything else, which I love. So the other one was on a slider and it kept falling down. So this is actually really nice. All right, I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna insert the other screw, then I'm gonna stick it in the window, and then I will insert the vent and we'll power it up. All right, so the nice thing about this unit I'm finding is that because both pieces are on super securely, both this and the one that attaches to the unit, that it doesn't really matter if you connect either or at any given time. So I actually have it connected to the unit now, and you could also go the other way if it's easier to do the install. I'm just going to put this in here. So the biggest issue with these that I've had in the past is that these things were absolutely bare to snap in place With this one, super easy. It's already in. All right, now I gotta get this up under here. And I'm gonna go on the outside of my lid because that's the way my windows are designed. I'm gonna stick this right in here. So I'm gonna slide that all the way over. Push it against there as hard as I can. And now you may notice that there's a little bit of a crack, a little bit of a seam up here. And that's what the insulation that they give you in the box is for. And then also up here, I have an issue as well. I'm probably just gonna cut a little piece of wood to stick down the bottom there. And these windows are not standard size, so they're probably a little higher than the windows that you have at home. But so that's what I'm going to do here. But this installation, when I tell you it's an order of magnitude easier than my last two portable air conditioners, is no exaggeration. The fact that they engineered this well enough so that it makes it easy to get the hose in and out of the insert as well as the AC is pure gold in my opinion. All right, next we're gonna fire the thing up and we'll see how well it cools. Let's go. All right guys, here we go, the moment of truth. So a couple quick things. When I plugged it in, it did show those two dashes or minus signs here. So that is standard, meaning that it's plugged in but turned off. Also on the note here, it says in high humidity above 60%, or if the tank fills within 1 hour, connect the drainage hose to the middle port for continuous drainage. So that is probably what that middle port is for. Probably the moisture gets pushed up and then out and then it goes down through the hose. So like I said, I have not used that in the past, but I did just want to give you that little footnote in terms of what the vendor says. You could potentially put a paint bucket there. You could put maybe even a Tupperware pan, and or if you have access to a painter's sink, you could do that, and or even potentially run the hose outside if you have access. All right, here we go. The moment of truth. And while I am firing this up, I'm going to start out on, looks like it wants auto mode. I'm going to go to low mode. And I do think that 64 degrees that's the lowest, that's the lower of the temperature settings for these guys. So that's the setting that you want if you want max cool. And obviously we have it on the low speed right now. I'm doing this so you guys can hear me. I will actually do a test in a second. We'll crank it up high. I'll just say right now, it's really quiet on the low setting. So that's encouraging. We have our timer here. So that's presumably if you want to set a timer so this goes on and off at different intervals, help save you energy. And then also if you don't like the room too cold, then it can help to regulate the temperature there. And then so temperature setting, as I said, so we have our up and down. We'll take it up to 65, and 64 is as low as it will go. And then here we have our 3 different modes. That's one of the things I really like about this air conditioner, is that it's super easy. Unlike the fancy pants other one that I have, you're basically looking at cool, fan, and dry. And so cool is the AC mode, obviously. Fan, I believe, takes the air from outside and recirculates it. If you have a hot day, at least for me, I've always preferred to go with the cooling mode. And then dry is if you want to run dehumidification. My understanding with that is that the tank will fill up with these quickly if you run dehumidification mode. So if you're doing that, you probably are going to want to use that hose option. And then over here we have our on and off switch, and there's also a sleep function as well. The thing I noticed right now is we have this oscillating thing happening here. And so I love the fact that the remote, I'm just going to push this back here a little bit. I love the fact that the remote also matches the temperature. So that digital readout here on the front and then here as well, super nice, and the remote matches that as well. I did notice that there's an oscillating feature here that I don't know if you can control from the top. There's probably a way, but this button here, so that stops the oscillation. So that's this vent thing from going up and down. And then so low mode still. So it did just kick on. Oh no, I switched it to auto. So it's increasing the fan speed as I was trying to get to that target temperature on auto. And now let's just go full high, see what that sounds like. And wow, I will say this is much quieter than my last two portable ACs, much quieter. And I am pulling at my fat stomach here right now. I gotta say, it's pretty chill. So this is about as my really cool one that was 10,000 BTU, so not dramatically cooler, which kind of makes sense because our target here is 64 degrees, right? And so they're gonna be equal, I think, from that capacity, but seems super powerful and super quiet. I'll shut up and let you guys take a listen for a sec here. So that's high, and now we're back to low. And even that feels nice, and I think going through just fine cooling off this bedroom, which is good because it'll save electricity. So in terms of the remote, I'm not going to insult your intelligence and go through all the different features, functions, because they pretty much match one-to-one what's on the unit itself. You do have your Celsius and Fahrenheit control there. That's useful. It looks like this is for your sleep timer. There's your fan, your up and down temperature. And then that oscillating one, I think, is the win for the remote. And I also like the fact that with the smart AC, I had to fumble with my app and my phone at night. I'll just put this by my bed. Don't have to open up any apps or anything else. The remote will just be there, so I can control it when I'm sleeping, or I can control it from my bed. We'll just leave it at that, guys. All right, so that's pretty much it. So there you have it, guys. So that is the unboxing, initial setup, and preliminary review of the Garvee 14,000 BTU portable air conditioner. And I would like to say thank you to Garvee for sending me out this unit to test. Appreciate that greatly. And all opinions of my own, as always. If you follow my channel, you'll know that. If you got any value from this one, just mind smashing that button. Helps out the channel a lot. I will leave a link to this down in the description. It'll be an affiliate link. If you go to use it, all proceeds go to support the channel. And YouTube thinks that you might like one of these next videos here I'm going to put up on screen. Anyhow, I hope this video helped you guys, and hope to see you in the next one. Cheers.